Thank you for browsing page 121. Today we're going to take a look at the Universal World Profile, or the UWP. We're going to take a look at what all the digits mean in it and why it's important to you as a traveler GM or player. So first things first, I got to go to my first book part. There we are. We're going to look at the sample right out of the Core Rulebook 2022, which is what this guy is. I love this book. It's such a good book. Anyway, reading world profiles. It goes on to explain that Traveler uses a hexadecimal system. In other words, 0 through 9 are 10 of the digits in the profile, and then instead of putting a 10, 11, etc., it goes to letters. A equals 10, B equals 11, and so on, up to tech level 15, which would be an F. But apparently this isn't a true hexadecimal code, because hexadecimal apparently doesn't go beyond 15, and of course Traveler it can, using, for instance, a G to describe tech level 16. So it's kind of a quasi-hexadecimal system. So we're going to take a look at their layout here, and it's going to be Kagri. And it gives the world its place in its subsector. And then it gives all these digits. This is the meat right here, from C through 9. Those are the important things for you to start with. And then, of course, some other notations at the end. So when you're on Traveler Map, for instance, you're going to see this. That's going to tell you right away a lot of what you need to know about the planet. And this would be what your travelers would be getting on as they get into the system and get their little download, or already have in their system. One important note on Traveler Map. Traveler Map is based on Traveler 5, Mark Miller's iteration of Traveler it's current right now. It's not based on Mongoose. It's almost indiscernible between the two, but just double check your UWPs when you take them off Traveler Map, and make sure that what you're taking off Traveler Map jibes with what you have in. If you're doing Mongoose, you want to be sure that they jibe. The nice thing about the UWPs is they really don't change much. I have pulled a few old ones from stuff 40 years ago, and they're very, very similar, if not the same. So on to reading our little line here. Kagri is the name of the planet. And this second set of 4 digits would be its location. Now the location here is given as 0101, but I looked Kagri up on Traveler Map, and it's given as 2419. So you need to know where it is on the map, and that's the position, the hex that it's in. So I have a feeling this was a placeholder when they were working on the book, 0101, and I have a feeling that it just got missed and they didn't put in the 2419. It's no big deal. And then we start with C. C is what? Well, that's the starport quality. So C starport. All right, let's take a look at what a C starport gives us. This is where you have to jump around a little bit, unfortunately, in the book. You have to move a bit to find some stuff. It doesn't follow the code, oddly enough. But okay, starport facility is C. The quality is routine. Berthing cost is 1 die times 100 credits. So if I rolled a 4, it'd be 400 credits to get a berthing cost. And I do that per week, by the way. Unrefined fuel is available, but not refined. They have a shipyard that'll handle small craft, and it can do repair for small craft. And on a 10 up, there will be a high port, an orbital port. And then as far as bases go, on a 10 up, there's a military base. On a 9 up, there's a scout base. So pretty straightforward there. Next we go to size. How big is the planet? Well, that's right over here. So planet size in this case is an A, which is a 10. That means it's 16,000 kilometers, whereas Earth is 12,800. At 1 gravity, that's what we're all used to. This world has 1.4 gravity, so it's a very heavy gravity world. It's almost, it's 40% heavier than Earth's gravity. So you're going to have to take some steps to be able to function on the planet. Maybe that's another reason for you as the GM to want a high port. Maybe you can't get your ship down there. You can have problems on high gravity worlds as far as your ship's integrity if you really want to go there with the game. In the immortal words of Futurama, how many atmospheres was this ship designed to withstand? Well, it's designed for space, so somewhere between 0 and 1. So at a 1.4 gravity, you could have a problem with the atmosphere being heavier. Maybe you have to land on high mountains. Maybe that's where the people live because the gravity's a little less that high up. That you have to make these decisions as the GM. And then we take a look at the atmosphere type. The atmosphere type in this is a 6. So we go to the chart and we look what a 6 is. That's standard. Earth standard, in fact, pressure is 0.71 to 1.49. So you can theoretically survive there without any kind of breathing apparatus, and you can just breathe the atmosphere. So that's pretty good, but again, the 1.4 gravity comes in a little bit, so you're going to have to play with that a little bit. Now we look at the hydrographic percentage, which gives us an A. Hydrographics are on this chart, and A is at 10. Means it's 96 to 100% water. It is definitely a water world. So now you got a high gravity water world with a breathable atmosphere. Now we go to population. How many people live on this particular planet? Well, let's take a look. Population, we are at a 6. And a 6, we have millions of people. So 1 million plus people all the way up to over 9 million if we want, but below 10 million. That makes us a population of 6. So you would decide that as the GM. And then we take a look at the government type. Government type is a 4, which is a representative democracy. Ruling functions are performed by elected representatives. And examples would be a republic or democracy. An example contraband would be drugs, weapons, and psionics. Psionics might be only if you're in the Third Imperium. Maybe if you're outside the Third Imperium, they don't have the ban on psionics the Third Imperium has. And then we look at your law level. What is legal, not legal? This is very important to travelers because they often run afoul of the law, so you want to know what your law level is. This is a law level of 3. So weapons ban would be military weapons and flak armor and everything above on this chart. So portable energy and laser weapons, combat armor, poison gas, explosives, undetectable weapons, weapons of mass destruction, battle dress. They would all be restricted on this planet, so you can't stomp around in your combat armor. And then we get to tech level. This is a tech level 9. Tech level 9 is in the front of the book. So again, you got to hop around a little bit. So we go to tech level 9, and we see that that is a pre-stellar civilization. The defining element of tech level 9 is development of gravity manipulation, which would be helpful in this world, which makes space travel vastly safer and faster. This research leads to development of the jump drive, which occurs near the end of this tech level. Tech level 9 cultures can colonize other worlds, although traveling to a colony is often a one-way trip because, again, they haven't quite developed the jump drive yet. So as you see, you got to move around in the book a little bit to find all the pieces that the code represents. But after a while, you get used to this, and you don't need to move around like that. You'll catch on pretty quick. Now we have N, and then a separate notation of RI, WA, and A. What do those mean? N stands for any bases that might be here. So an N is a naval base, S is a scout base. You could also have some kind of pirate base and corsair base and things like that. So in this case, it's just N for a naval base. That doesn't mean it's necessarily for the Third Imperium. Kagri is in the Third Imperium, so this probably would be a naval base for the Third Imperium, but maybe it's a local base for their resident navy. And then we look at RI. RI stands for a rich world. So there is something exploitable about Kagri. Maybe there's minerals in the waters that are valuable, or maybe the areas that are above ground have particularly heavy metals or things like that. So that's really up to you as the GM. But there's something about it that makes it a rich world. WA, of course, refers to the water world, the fact that it is a true water world. It's so much water and so little landmass, so that can influence how the people live. And do they live in big arcologies on the sides of mountains? Do they live in orbital platforms and like go down to the planet for the exploitable things? That's all for you as the referee to decide. And then we end up with A, which is our travel zone. Travel zone for the system is A for amber zone, R for red zone, and no code given there would make it a green zone or pretty safe to travel. Every world that you go to is going to have its little quirks, so it's up to you to decide why this particular world is an amber zone. The amber zone might have been given because of a lot of volcanism on the planet, where it's just considered to be dangerous. It's not enough to taint the atmosphere, but there's a danger of an eruption in the settled areas, so maybe that's the problem. Maybe it's social unrest, where you have people that are just unhappy with the government and some of the things the government has done, so they're lashing out, and that's making it a little bit dangerous. It could just be that there are social mores that we aren't aware of. Maybe there's a taboo on touching another person that you're not directly related to. or in your circle, maybe that's a problem. So if you even try to shake hands with that individual, you could end up running afoul of some local customs. Not necessarily local laws, but local customs. And this is the area where the GM steps in. This is where you go, okay, I have all this laid out in my nice little line here, but now I have to decide what this means. It's a representative democracy, but that doesn't mean everybody gets to vote. Only some of the people might vote. Maybe it's an Aslan occupied world, or the Aslan are the primary population on the world, and maybe humans don't get the voting franchise here. Or maybe females get the voting franchise, but males don't, just due to local customs, things like that. Just because it's a representative democracy does not mean everybody's voice is heard. These are all little details for you to work out as the game master. And it all depends on how you want your story to go. If you don't care about what the planet is really doing, you want this just to be a stopover for your players to meet somebody and they're going to continue their story from there, then you don't have to dig in too deep on the planet. If you want the planet to be a really important point in your story, then you do need to dig into the planet. I am running the planet of Aston as my home base right now. My players have kind of settled there, and I've changed some stuff about the Universal World Profile simply because I didn't like it. So I went ahead and I said, okay, well, the scout that filed this was having a particularly bad day and fudged a few of the numbers that might have been borderline and made the planet seem a little bit worse, or maybe he was on the payroll of a rival planet that didn't want this planet getting a good review. There's a lot of reasons. So that's one of the story arcs that I'm doing, is that if Aston's UWP isn't exactly correct, so now my players are actually actively working with some of the local imperial authorities to get Avastin's UWP updated and changed. They're encouraging a new survey. Avastin is not in the 3rd Imperium, but it is in District 268, and it is being considered among the planets for inclusion into the 3rd Imperium. So that can end up being really important, and my players are trying to exploit the planet and really make some money there, and it's been a lot of fun. You're also going to find that there's a lot of resources out there that have great detail on some worlds. Avastin was featured in the Traveler's Aid Society, number 9, I believe, and it got about an 8-page write-up, and there's a ton of stuff in there, and I found some other stuff on it, so I'm going in and I'm reading it. I go on the Traveler Wiki, take a look at that, take a look at some of the notations in Traveler Map, that kind of thing, and then I write my stuff down, and I make the world my own. So what you do with the planet is up to you. It's kind of nice to be a GM and just juggle planets at my leisure and change some stuff if I don't like it. It can be a lot of fun. The planet can be an opponent. If you want to really place your characters in a difficult situation where the planet itself is part of the conflict, that's a way to write your story too. But that's all I've got today on page 121. I want to thank you for your time. Thanks for watching. Please leave any comments below, like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Tell your friends. I'm still trying to grow the channel. And take a look at the Patreon, see if you can help me out there. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.